All right, everybody. Welcome to our Ask the Trainer feature on Facebook and Instagram. I'm glad you guys are joining us. So we have a topic that's common for a lot of people, and it's jumping. So when we have jumping dogs, there's a variety of reasons why they may jump. Primarily, though, it's usually because dogs are really excited. So that's the most common type, and it's more or less easier to deal with when you know how to deal with it. So some dogs, they might jump because they're anxious or they're conflicted. Then you're getting some more complicated emotions involved with that, and then the root cause might not just be seeing your favorite person. So that might be where you want to call and get some more in-depth help. So I'm going to cover the most basic. Hi, Linda. I'm going to cover the most basic forms of jumping. And so when dogs are jumpy and somebody may come over to your house or you get home, you might let your dog out of their kennel or maybe they're free roaming. They're going to be excited to see you. So if I have my dog on a leash, that gives me a little bit a better way to manage that. So versus them running up and jumping up. And then you might have heard some of the old ways to fix this problem would be telling them off or pushing them off of you or bringing your knee up. That can make a lot of dogs even go a little bit harder or more intensely. They might think you're actually playing with them, and that doesn't really teach them what you want them to do. So when I'm helping people fix a jumping problem, I'm trying to teach an alternate behavior that's not compatible with jumping. So right now, if somebody was to approach me, I really like where Zero is right now. He's just laying down, and I can reinforce that behavior by just dropping some cookies. If he got up, but I dropped the cookie and it went bouncing, he sat back down, and I gave him that nice cookie. So 4 on the floor, sitting, laying down, those are all preferable. So, and we can train them to do that. So, but it's a learned behavior. So you have to start off where there's less distractions. In the environment you want them to be successful at. So if it's in your home and you're working on getting people to, or getting your dogs to keep 4 on the floor when somebody comes in the house, start off without anybody coming into the house. Teach them where you want this behavior done on leash in that spot. Teach them that basic, just sit. It's going to give you cookies. You and me are on leash. Then you can start maybe even knocking on the door. Knock, 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 held it, treat. So you're teaching them now do with that sound, or you might even have a visual of somebody just walking up to you. But the goal is to add in a little bit more higher distractions while they're in that. So whether they're standing up, keeping 4 on the floor, or whether they're sitting or laying down, keep reinforcing that behavior, and they're more likely to do that. If they do stand up, you can ask them to sit again. Good job, and reward. Another reward that they could get is you actually allow the person to approach, or you get to approach the person, and then you get to give that attention. So that attention is what they're oftentimes seeking by the jumping itself. So if you're getting them to do something that you want them to do first, so I want you to sit, then I will give you that attention that you wanted, or I'll give you that cookie that you wanted. So you just earn that treat. And then you start to progress and get a little bit more and more when you have somebody coming over to maybe even practice doing this. I always talk about setting up your training so that you can repeat it over and over versus just trying to rely on chance meetings. When grandma comes over for the kid's birthday party and you got people coming in left and right, and your dog doesn't, and you're currently working on that behavior, that might be a harder time for your dog to have success with. In that case, you may just switch over to management. Maybe we need to put our dog away. Maybe we need to put our dog in a kennel. Maybe we need to put our dog in another room. Or maybe we just need to have our dog on leash so he's not allowed to jump up on people when they come up. So I always start with, is it a management situation? If it's kind of relying on chance and you haven't had the time to work on that, chances are yes, let's manage that and prevent the behavior from happening. And set your training scenarios up. Maybe a family member is going to come in and out of the front door multiple times while you work on this. If they get up when a person comes through the door and get too excited, it makes the person go leave. So it might be the opposite of what the dog wants. So when they can learn to keep 4 on the floor, maybe they're in a sit, maybe they're in a down, then they're going to get what they want. So management and training is what I always suggest for jumping. There's another common strategy that people will use, and that is turning your back. And I know Linda had posted a question about that earlier when I dropped onto Facebook last night. I seen her and Buster having an issue when you turn your back on some dogs. That actually just invites them to jump up more. They may get frustrated, may even get more excited, or they may start to get mouthy at the same time. So that doesn't always work. It kind of depends on the dog. It may work for some dogs. If you try that, and your dog gets down and they offer that sit and you reward that, great. If you try that once and your dog seems to intensify, then we need to try something else, because your dog you're kind of inviting them to jump up on your back. And I see that with adolescents a little bit more than with adults. Younger puppies might start to get mouthy on your pants and start biting. So when they start to amp up, maybe we need to not work on that right now. Let's wait for them to be a little more calmer. They may need a timeout with something to chew on, or you might need to leave the room or put them behind a baby gate for a few minutes just to get them to kind of settle back down and then try it again. But if your dog is jumping up on your back, then repeatedly and getting more intense, then stop doing that, and we'll try something else, like teaching an alternate behavior. But you have to reinforce that alternate behavior quite a bit for that to work. And like I said, start increasing the distraction levels as you go. Another great thing would be to maybe even teach them a few tricks. So if they come running up on you and they're jumping up, you might even have a family member or two that says, it's okay, I like it when they jump up, but a lot of other people don't like that when they jump up. So maybe a compromise might be teaching your dog how to touch. So if I say touch, he comes out, hits my hand with his nose, I reward. Touch. Eventually, I can kind of teach that and ask for that when I want it. I'm not asking him to jump up. I'm just asking him to touch up here. Yeah, touch. Yes, good job. And then I'm rewarding it because I asked for it. I didn't ask him to put his paws on me, so he didn't put paws on. He simply did a target. Touch. Good job. So you can do things like that. You could, if your dog comes running up on you and you know they're not going to listen to you, sometimes I will toss a couple of cookies on the ground just to break that up. After they eat it, I usually can get them, because their mindset is kind of shifted over to food, so then I can start asking for a couple other behaviors. If you do that enough, they might start to get used to that, where they come running up to you, 0, spin, and you ask for some other behavior. Whoops, you're tangled up. And maybe you're letting them get some of that excitement out through a game that doesn't involve them jumping all over you. So I love teaching alternate incompatible behaviors. I try that first before anything else, and I do that a lot. Oh, poor Zero. You got to eat the food. You don't breathe them in. Keep working. If you try some of those things and you're not having a lot of luck with that, maybe working on a virtual private where I can see what your mechanics are looking at, see what your environment is. Sometimes that will help. Even doing obedience classes, those are great ways to give you more tools in your tool belt to be able to ask for new behaviors. The one other thing, so a lot of these behaviors revolve around excitement levels. If your dogs just can't settle down, I'll go back to that management piece a little bit, where if you are confining them in a crate or a kennel or another room, giving them something to work on works that brain a little bit. So they're not just in that space being more frustrated that they can't get out. I like to give them something that's going to allow them to calm back down a little bit, something to chew on, maybe some type of a stuffed Kong or some other type of puzzle toy. And we've done some other series on these things. I believe Allison before did one on enrichment. So you can always go back on some of our previous talks and see what we're talking about when I talk about puzzle toys and giving your dogs a mental workout. So, and you can find those in our library on both Facebook and Instagram. So I think we're going to take some questions here. And Linda's was the first one that I came across, and I addressed it a little bit. So Buster amps up a little bit higher when she turns her back. So Buster wants to be everybody's up close and bestest friend. Turning your back on him gets him to jump with more enthusiasm and using his teeth. So Linda, like I was saying earlier, go back and try a mixture of management and training. Set him up on doing this 4 on the floor, teaching him an alternate trick, or teaching him just to reinforcing that sit a lot in more of a calmer state where you're setting him up for success. And then when it gets when you know it's going to get too much, or maybe there's some times of the day that are more predictable for Buster just to be kind of getting those zoomies and getting out of his head, then we may have to manage that behavior a little bit to prevent it in the first place. So I hope that helps answer your question. And I think we'll go on to another one. Let's see. Some of these aren't quite related to jumping, and that's okay. There's a lot of questions that I had submitted on here that we're talking about reactivity on leash. I previously did one of these talks, and you can go back and watch that one. It's all dedicated to leash reactivity, so you should be able to find your answers because a lot of these reactivity questions will be answered through that. And again, you can always call us at our Pet Helpline to get some more in-depth help from us. So I'm going to go on to one here from the bungalow. I think it's Clumpus. How do I get my dog to stop chasing my cat? That's a common one as well. So I kind of there's a kind of a lot that goes into that. How long have they lived together? If they're brand new, then I would be going through more of a slower introduction period. I'd also manage that environment, making sure that cat has escape routes. So I might have to use some baby gates or some closed doors with some cat doors installed, so that cat always has somewhere that they can get away from your dog. And I like using those. I like using a little bit of higher places that the cats can go up on. And I also like to manage my dog. If it's a brand new and you're just starting out intros, it's going fairly well, but sometimes your dog will chase your cat. Having your dog drag a leash around so that you could get to that leash and stop your dog from getting to that cat can help. And just going around playing a game called Look at That or Engage, Disengage, Zero, with your dog on leash and having your cat maybe eating some, working on a puzzle toy on the other side of the room. Every time your dog looks towards the cat, you're going to mark and reward that. And you're going to reward your dog for calmer behaviors whenever they see the cat. So if your dog suddenly sits, maybe, yes, and you reward that in the presence of the cat. Now, and I don't like to, you might ask for the behavior, but if your dog chooses to calm down a little bit, reward that. So he's not going to calm down in front of me right now because I actually have a treat in my hand, so he's just focused on that. But if he eventually lays down, yes, that's even more calm than that sit was. All the while, he's on leash so that I have control of that environment. If I have two people around, then I might have one person working with the cat. Maybe they might be hand feeding the cat, or the cat might just be eating out of a bowl. But I don't want that cat to have a lot of fast movement, so I'd avoid playing because those fast movements are going to trigger your dog to chase. So I want to start with everything as calm as I can get it. And if I have success if I've been having trouble with this, and I kind of redid my approach the way I was saying it, and I had success for 5 seconds, I would end my session at 5 seconds. And I would pick another time to pick that back up. So that way, because I can build on success. It's harder to come back when you misstep and you take steps backwards because you lose all that progress. So when you're working on your dog chasing the cat, so it's reward, calmer behavior, manage the environment, have your dog on leash, and keep associating that cat and your dog's behavior with calm things. And if you can't actively supervise, then they may need to be separated. So, and when I mean active, I mean you're there actually, that's what your attention's on. Because there's different ways to supervise. You could be passively supervising, meaning you're in the room and you're doing something else, but your attention isn't on your dog. Like right now, I'm passively supervising my dog because my attention is all on you. He's still in the room. I would be slower to react if he was suddenly scared by something. So there's different ways to supervise that. If you can't actively supervise them, you may need to separate them, depending on the level of anxiety or how intense that chase is. Also, how is your dog chasing the cat? Does it look playful, or does it look like they have a prey drive? So you can always give me a call, and I can get a little bit more detail about that, and we can go from there. I'm going to go on to another one. Let's see.
Yeah, we have a question from Instagram.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the dancer's wife is saying her dog did a few classes at ahs, and they're wondering if you have any tips for dogs get overly excited around kids. And then also, what are the procedures going to be, because we are starting in-person classes again.
Okay, this was from the dancer's wife?
The dancer's way.
The dancer's way. All right. Yeah, so for the dancer's way, I had a question about dogs' excitement level around kids. I'm going to touch on that a little bit. To me, that's a very, very important topic to cover. I can go on for an hour on dogs and kids. You heard me just a little bit ago talk about supervision. And I said a couple of key things. I said active supervision. I also said passive supervision. So with dogs and kids, depending on the age of the kids and kind of how well they, you've taught them to approach dogs. Maybe you've taught your kids not to go up and take things away from the dogs, or pat them on the head, or try to hug them, or get their face close to their face. Those are all trigger points, and that's how bites can happen. When dogs get too excited around kids, I manage. So I might have to give that dog something else to do. If the kids are having a birthday party and there's 5 or 6 kids running around, I may not have my dog out running around with them because their movements may be unpredictable. They may do something that your dog didn't like or scared your dog. So I don't like to take chances, and I would manage their energy level and manage the environment so that I prevented any chance for something bad to happen or a kid to get knocked down. There's another game that you can play with kids if you're it's a regular old day and you got a couple of young ones around, and they're old enough to kind of teach a few things. One thing I like, if the dog is really, really excited, and remember you're actively supervising them, to stand like a tree. Not necessarily turn your back, but just stand like a tree and bring their hands up so that you can go get the dog away from them. I don't want them to scream and run back because that's going to get the dog to be a little bit more excited and chase. So if they just stand like a tree and be silent, that gives you an opportunity to redirect your dog away. Also learning how to, am I still there? Learning how to work with their energy levels. So I like to teach dogs, like when I stop moving, they stop moving and with me. So if, for example, if I have 0 here and I get him up, so I might start with just hopping to the side, stopping, and rewarding. Okay? Let's go wild and freeze. But I can't start running around the room screaming and expect him not to get too excited and have success and stop and sit with me. But if I quickly jump over here, he stops. Yes, he gets that treat. And as I go a little bit more, I start making more movements to get him a little more excited. He stops with me, and boop. I'm teaching him to stop when I stop. So, but I like to start with just a simple, boring little move. So I hope that helps. You can always, there's other resources out there. You could, the one website I really love for dogs and kids is Family Paws. So Pet Parent Education, that's a great website, and they have lots of blogs and a lot of articles written by a lot of people who specialize with dogs and kids. So that's a great resource as well. I actually go on there myself and read blogs and stuff. So I really like that website. We got something else from here. Let's see here. Like I said, least reaction to some dogs, not all. This is from Carol. Can I learn more on this topic? Absolutely, Carol. If you go back into our libraries, you're going to see that I did a whole talk on reactivity. So I encourage you to go check out our video library and start with that. You can always, after that, if you have more questions, certainly give us a call. Let's see. And we do have, we're all manning our behavior helpline and pet helpline. So you can call our pet helpline, get directed to us, and we can help you further. We're also doing virtual privates at this time that we can continue to help with too. Let's see here. I got a long one here from Stephanie Peterson. I have a 6-month-old black lab adopted a month ago. He's very friendly and jumpy on walks in an attempt to keep him from jumping on every person we meet along the way. As someone approaches, I take him a few feet away, put him in a sit, and make him wait. He does this very well. However, I want to get him to the point we can walk past another person. But once he is in his sit, he will not move. He is so interested in the person going by, he is not even interested in a treat. And it looks like that goes on a little bit longer. So, Stephanie, I would say that you might have a good problem on your hand. If he's holding his sit and allowing that person to walk by, that's a great place to start and to build from. He's 6 months old. He's getting into adolescence. Evaluate the kind of treat you're using. So maybe the value of the treat just is not high enough for him to take his focus off that person that's walking. So if you maybe up that value a little bit, you might be able to continue working with him on being able to actually pass that person. So I would do that with this one when I walk around the halls of the Humane Society. We're walking past people. I always treat that as a very high level distraction, and I reward him for walking at my side, walking past people whenever I'm in buildings. So, and it's kind of almost a constant thing because I always want him to feel comfortable walking through crowds of people. So I still pay this dog for walking calmly through a crowd of people. So I hope that helps. Yeah, I can certainly look at a few of these. Let me see. How do I calm my dog down after he or she seizes a passerby or the mailman? So that's Zero. What are you doing? Come on. So when dogs see something out of a window, they may be it may be a little bit of territorial behavior. It may be a little bit of anxiety. Could be a little bit of barrier aggression because that that window is right in front of them, where they might not act like that with no barrier. So if I know the mailman's coming, usually they're fairly predictable on when they can come, then I would work on rewarding as that mailman is coming up to associate the mailman with a good thing. Or close my curtains or manage it so that he can't see. And Zero, you're going to topple that light over. Just waiting for that leash to catch this light over here. Oh, good boy. He had to go get some attention. So I might manage the environment altogether so that I prevent him from seeing that. But if it does happen and he sees the mailman and he starts squealing and yipping and barking really loudly, working with getting his attention away from that. You may have to lure him at first a few times to come to another place to get something of higher value. Once you at least get him away from that window, you can always start with slow massage. Zero, your leash is going to cause some havoc over here, buddy. I can just feel it. But yeah, you can unclip it. There you go, bud. Where was I? You can work in some real slow massage with them. I know I do that with Zero a lot, actually, because he's one of those dogs that gets a little bit anxious. And one of his things is seeing deer. The mailman, not so much, but it could be kids playing across the street. Once I get his attention, I know where his spots are. I can massage in certain spots. And after about 45 seconds, I visibly can see how he gets a lot more relaxed. Zero, come on over. So a couple of spots that he likes are right behind his ears. Yeah, I know. Now use an earthy tone of voice. I know it, buddy. I know. I know. A lot of slow massage. The slower you go, the more relaxed they can get. Right, buddy? I know. This is his other spot right on his butt. He likes getting that massage. So, did you see how he got a little slower? He even leaned that head down into my leg. So through that massage, I was able to get him to relax a little bit. Now he has a dog that can go from 0 to 60 and like that. So there's days where I do that a few times depending on what's going on. So I hope that helps a little bit. I think there's a couple of them related to sound I want to touch on. Let's see. Yes. Okay. Maddie Snell. Scared of loud noises, thunder, fireworks, gunshots. Tried everything. He still shakes. And this is something a lot of people have troubles with, and it's a lot of anxiety around these big loud noises, and it's tough to watch, and it's sad to watch your dogs be so scared and frightened of loud noises like that. So what I suggest would be, if you know there's a period of time, you know there's a thunderstorm coming, there is products on the market to help lower anxiety, like a composure treat. You may look at DAP, or dog appeasing pheromones. That can come in a diffuser, it can come in a spray. There's a product called a Thunder Shirt that does compression that can help them feel a little bit better about that. It's specifically designed to work with noises. There's also a T-wrap where you can take an ACE bandage and kind of simulate what that Thunder Shirt is doing. There's a lot of videos on YouTube. If you just look up a T-touch for T-wrap for dogs, it'll show you how to apply that, and that can work almost like a Thunder Shirt. So those are some things that you can help to bring that anxiety level down. You can also play some white noise in the background. Turn up maybe play your TV a little bit louder during a thunderstorm. Or maybe you could take them into another room, like a bathroom sometimes is a little more insulated from some of those noises, or just another room where it might muffle that noise a little bit more. A lot of dogs, like this one here, Zero, loves going under my bed when he's not feeling very confident about things. And I allow him to go under the bed because he's going under there. He's making the choice. It's not like he's shaking from fear. Sometimes he just likes to go under there because it's like his little den. And that helps him feel a little bit better. So there's a combination of some things that you can do. And then you could always start playing those noises that they're afraid of on your phone, so that you can kind of desensitize them to those noises. So if I don't know where Zero went. Zero! There you are. If he was afraid of some thunder or a gunshot, I would select that. I would find that noise. There's apps that you can get on your phone, or you can look at YouTube. I would play the noise a little quieter so it's not so intense. So a nice low volume. As soon as that happened, I play the noise and I almost go over the top because I want him to feel good about that. So let's say it's a doorbell. Ding dong, yay! And just treats go flying all over the place. I want it to be a big jackpot. I literally just threw like 10 treats on the ground because I want that noise to be associated almost with a party, a celebration. Then as he gets a little bit more comfortable with that, and I do that enough times, I'm going to break these treats up really small, because if I'm giving my dog 10 treats, I'm going to take one. It's hard to see that. Maybe you can zoom in. I've got just a moist and meaty treat in my fingers here. And it's maybe the size of 2 peas. But I'm going to take that, break that in, that one treat, I'm going to break it into about 4 or 5 pieces. So now, when I do my ding dong, yay! I just throw them all over the place. And he gets a big celebration for hearing that noise. So that might be able to help out. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit. Do we have any other questions coming in that you want to?
This one from Crystal on Facebook. I think the beginning of our video addressed it.
Okay.
So maybe refer her back to the beginning of this video.
Okay, Crystal Madsen. We have a 16-week Sepsky, adopted 2 months ago. He does excellent on walks when seeing people, but anytime someone comes to our home, or especially when my husband or I return home from work, he gets very excited and jumps up to greet everyone. At 16 weeks, he is already 40 pounds, and he has sharp claws, so we'd like to change this behavior. Yeah, so I was talking about that a little bit earlier at the beginning of the video. So, Crystal, if you go back and rewatch this, you're going to hear me talking about teaching alternate behaviors or teaching your dog to run up to you to perform a trick. or maybe to play fetch. So if they run up, I might come into the house ready with some cookies where I can toss them away from me and get them to move away from me. After they eat some treats, they're probably more likely to listen. Here goes there. Boop. So I get them to move away from me. Ooh, I almost got your light again. And when he comes back, come in, sit. Then I ask for another behavior. So go back and watch the beginning of that. That might help out if you're still having some trouble or you're unclear on something. Give us a call on the Pet Helpline, and they can direct you to us, and we'll go from there. Any other questions come in? Otherwise, I'm going to take a couple more. How are we doing on time? Good? Okay. Let's see here. Here's a good one. My 1.5-year-old, and it's related to jumping. This is from Nancy Mayer 1. My 1.5-year-old pup jumps up and tries to kiss, lick nonstop when he's in our laps. Help! So that's a lot of affection, kissing and licking. If they get too excited, that can lead to maybe nipping. But if they're in your lap and you invited them into your lap, so you're going to set maybe some criteria. And it sounds like them licking your face nonstop is going outside of the criteria you're set. So then you have to get up. And you can reward them to be on your lap with calm behavior, with slow movements, slow talking like I was doing with him earlier, that slow massage, and just moving those slow movements. Yeah, I know, buddy. And keep working with that. If they get too excited, then you have to get up. And so I'm not sure how big your 1.5-year-old is. Again, a 1.5-year-old probably still in that adolescent phase too, so it's kind of easier to get them excited. But I invite my dog Zero into my lap quite often, despite him being, I don't know, 55 pounds. He's a lap dog, and I don't like it when he licks my face all the time. I don't invite him into my lap to lick my face. Sometimes I invite him to lick my face, but if he's laying there and he licks my face, I get up and say all done. And I might use my hand targeting skill that I taught him to move off of my lap and then get up. So if you don't like them licking your face, just don't reinforce it for one. Because I have certainly reinforced my dog for some of those behaviors. So even if I invite him into my lap, I know I'm inviting him into my lap, and he may reach up and lick and kiss if I get him too excited. If he's relaxed with me, and I'm not doing anything to get him overly excited, then he's more likely just to relax with me. Okay. Let's see. Grace Preston, my 7-month-old Border Collie German Shepherd, keeps hurting my 8-month-old lab, and it's difficult for the lab to even play without her hurting. How do I get her to stop? Okay, so let's see. You have 2 pups playing, and you have a Border Collie German Shepherd. So herding is in their DNA. That's going to be a little tougher when they're running and they're chasing. If your 8-month-old lab is running, it's going to be very difficult for your 7-month-old Border Collie German Shepherd mix not to want to herd your lab. So you might have to come up with some other things to do. In a game of chase between dogs, skyrockets those arousal levels. So I may have to start to teach them to play in a different way. They might be independent, but if they start to play, I might do recalls with them so they come back to me, or I interrupt that play very quickly into that play session. It might be 5-10 seconds. You're playing, and then we're going to take a break. So I'm going to try to manage those arousal levels. If it looks like you're lab is enjoying these interactions, and I don't know that a lot of dogs really love being herded. Some of them are, I imagine some of them are okay with it, but watch the body language of your lab. If it really looks like they're not enjoying that experience at all, then you put a stop to it and you come up with an alternate plan. Maybe they got to play different games separately from each other a little bit, where it's not always going to be rough chasing and wrestling. Maybe you're teaching them to do a different sport. Maybe you're teaching them scent sports, which I happen to teach here at the Humane Society, which is a great way for them to do something else besides just roughhouse and play. And they don't have to, as they're at that adolescent age where they're bigger and stronger, so that intensity can quickly get out of hand. So I would have your labs back, and I wouldn't allow it to happen. So that would be, again, management. That's a good question.
Another question from Instagram too.
Okay.
So if you can repeat it for Facebook, yeah, that'd be great. But Allie FT asked, what's one of the biggest training misconceptions you've come across?
Oh, Callie has asked, what is one of the biggest training misconceptions that I come across? That positive reinforcement means that your dog won't do anything without a treat. So, that you cannot get results with positive reinforcement without using treats. So, science-based positive reinforcement training, yes, they are using treats because that has value. Same thing I could say of your paychecks. Those have value. So it keeps you working. But when we're teaching a new behavior to a dog, we want them to like doing that. We want to quickly get them to do the behavior we ask. And once they get good at it, you start phasing those treats out. You periodically will reward for certain things. But you have to, and it does take time because you have to start training these behaviors in new environments with different levels of distractions. Are you being a good boy? Touch. Come on. There. Oh, you didn't quite do it. Here. Yes. And I will reward him for that because he's on camera. He's working. So I don't like to pay for everything. Some forms I pay with attention. Sometimes I pay them with play. I do reinforce a lot, but it's not always food-based rewards. So positive reinforcement training, I love it because it teaches the dogs to want to do these things. You're not teaching them to avoid doing things with punishment or fear-based methods. So to me, that would be a misconception that I think about frequently. Good question. I'm glad you asked that. Anything else coming in?
We had one from JT Rector 03 on Instagram who asked about his puppy is having a hard time walking on leash. But I think that we did a couple weeks back do a loose leash walking video.
Okay. JT Rector 03. So his puppy is having a hard time walking on leash. Yes, we did a loose leash walking segment a couple of weeks back. You can always refer back to that. But I will say, for puppies on leash, putting that leash on a puppy for the first time can be overwhelming. It can be terrifying, and they kind of freeze and they don't know what to do. So that would be doing some things in the house just around the leash. Can you toss me my leash? So I might not even clip this to them at first. I might have to associate a sniff, yes, and just so they start to investigate it on their own. Maybe I start just throwing it on the floor. He looked at it, yes, give a reward. If he goes to sniff it, yes, get a reward. Just get them used to that leash. And maybe your leash is kind of big for a puppy. So think about the leash itself. Is it lightweight? Is it got a really big, heavy clip on the end? You might have to go to something really lightweight and just kind of let them drag it around a little bit in the house while they're wearing it too, to get them used to it before you pick it up. Because if you clip that on and you start walking with a puppy, dogs have an opposition reflex. So if that is on, I pull. Of course he comes toward me, but a lot of dogs will pull away from that pressure that's being put on there, or in a puppy's case, they might just get scared and not know what to do. So be patient with that. Associate that leash with a lot of good things. Associate it with some play, associate it with food, associate it with attention, associate that leash with all